The wolf's blood pooled black under fluorescent lights. Rowan Hale's hands moved without thinking, suture, not pull. Rain hammered the clinic roof like fists demanding entry. Outside Pine Hollow, Oregon slept through another Thursday night, unaware that 3 blocks from Main Street, something illegal bled out on stainless steel. The animal was massive, easily 200 pounds, flanks scarred with marks that didn't come from nature. Steel restraints had done this. Human tools. Industrial clasps that left geometric burns in living flesh. Rowan's gloved fingers found another wound. This one deeper, deliberate. "Third one this week," she whispered to no one. Her voice disappeared into the hum of ancient AC units and the metronome beep of a heart monitor she wasn't supposed to own. The kind used for animals that didn't exist in official records. The kind wildlife enforcement pretended not to know about while simultaneously warning her to stop asking questions. Hi viewers, have you ever kept a secret so dangerous that speaking it out loud felt like signing your own death warrant? The wolf's chest rose, fell, rose again. Rowan sealed the final suture and stepped back. Her scrubs stuck to her spine with sweat despite the October chill leaking through cracked windows. She'd been at this for 6 hours. No food, no water, just her and creatures the government claimed were either extinct or never existed at all. She peeled off latex gloves and dropped them in a biohazard container marked General Waste. Another lie in a tower of necessary deceptions. Her phone buzzed against the metal counter. The screen lit up with a name that made her stomach clench. Wildlife Enforcement. Missed call. 7. They never called 7 times unless something had shifted. Unless someone had decided her usefulness had expired. Rowan's knees buckled. Not from exhaustion. From the weight of knowing she'd reached the end of a road she'd been traveling since she was 19 years old. Since the night Dr. Ansel Crow had pulled her aside after a routine livestock call and asked if she wanted to see something that would change everything. He'd shown her a world operating in shadows. Wolves that shouldn't exist. Injuries that told stories of capture and experimentation. A network of veterinarians who patched up the evidence before it could reach anyone who mattered. Then Ansel vanished. No goodbye. No explanation. Just an empty clinic and a voicemail that said stop asking questions. Rowan. They're listening now. That was 3 years ago. She'd kept going. Kept stitching. Kept pretending she didn't see the pattern. But tonight, staring at steel-inflicted burns on an animal twice the size of anything in zoology textbooks, something inside her cracked clean through. She slid down the locked clinic door until she hit the floor. The tile was cold. Real. The only honest thing in a room built on secrets. Her phone sat 3 feet away on the counter. Rowan stared at it, then at her hands. Blood under her nails despite the gloves. Always blood. Always someone else's. She crawled forward and grabbed the phone. Her fingers moved before her brain could stop them. Opening messages. Finding the last conversation with Ansel. 3 years old. Frozen in time like a grave she visited too often. She typed slowly. I can't protect them anymore. I'm sorry. I tried. It was a confession. An epitaph. The last words of someone who'd fought a war no one would acknowledge and lost anyway. Her thumb hovered over send. She thought about the wolves. About the ones she'd saved and the dozens she hadn't. About the vet techs who'd quit after seeing things they couldn't explain. About the enforcement officers who'd looked her dead in the eye and said, "We appreciate your discretion." Dr. Hale. Discretion. As if silence was a virtue instead of cowardice. Rowan hit send. The message left instantly. Blue checkmark. Delivered. Her chest loosened. Just slightly. Enough to breathe. Then the screen flickered. She frowned. Pulled the phone closer. The message thread had changed. Ansel's name was gone. In its place, 3 numbers she didn't recognize. 3 separate conversations. All showing the same message she'd just sent. What? The lights died. Every fluorescent bulb in the clinic snapped off simultaneously. The heart monitor flatlined into silence. Even the AC unit stopped its grinding hum. Total darkness. Total silence. Rowan's pulse hammered in her ears. She fumbled for her phone. The screen glowed weakly, battery at 4%. Then she heard it. Howling. Not the chaotic yipping of coyotes or the mournful cry of a lone wolf. This was different, organized, intentional, a call that carried weight and instruction. One howl from the north, answered immediately by another from the west. Then south, then east. They were coordinating. Rowan scrambled to her feet. Her phone flashlight barely cut through the dark. She stumbled toward the security monitor in the corner, a system installed after the second break-in attempt. The backup battery should have kept it running even without main power. The screen was black. She slammed her palm against it. Once, twice. It flickered. Green static. Then an image resolved. The tree line beyond the clinic parking lot. Empty. Rowan exhaled. Probably a blown transformer. The howling was just a shape emerged from the trees. Then another. And another. Black bodies moving with precision. Not running. Walking. Advancing like soldiers who knew exactly where they needed to be. Her flashlight beam swung across the monitor. She counted shapes. Lost count. Started again. Wolves. Dozens of them. Each one the size of the creature bleeding out on her operating table. They didn't charge the building. Didn't circle randomly. They formed a perimeter. Rowan's suppressant should have been working. The pill she took every morning to keep her body from betraying her. To keep instincts buried so deep they'd suffocated years ago. But her skin prickled. Her vision sharpened. Her hearing stretched beyond human capacity until she could track individual paw steps on wet asphalt. "No," she whispered. "Not now. Not like this." The wolves stopped moving. 50 animals frozen in perfect formation. Their eyes reflected in the security camera's infrared, 50 points of light in the darkness. Waiting. Rowan's hands shook. She backed away from the monitor. Her spine hit the wall. Nowhere to go. Nowhere to run. The clinic was surrounded by creatures that shouldn't exist, responding to a message she'd sent to numbers she didn't recognize. The howling stopped. Silence pressed down like a physical weight. Then the front door lock clicked. Not broken. Not forced. Unlocked. 3 silhouettes filled the doorway. Tall. Broad-shouldered. Backlit by the parking lot's single working streetlight. They stepped inside. Rain dripped from their hair and clothes. Steam rose from their skin despite the cold. The wolves outside lowered their heads. Rowan's lungs forgot how to work. Every nerve in her body screamed run while her legs refused to move. Her suppressant was failing. She could feel it dissolving in her bloodstream. Feel the truth she'd buried clawing its way to the surface. The figure in the center tilted his head. Inhaled slowly. When he spoke, his voice carried the same organized precision as the howls. "She's here. What happens when the thing you've been running from finally finds you? And it knows your name." The security monitor behind Rowan flickered twice, then died completely. Darkness swallowed the clinic except for the pale streetlight glow framing 3 men who shouldn't be able to stand that still. Humans fidgeted, shifted weight, breathed audibly. These 3 did none of those things. Rowan's phone slipped from her hand, clattered against the floor. The sound echoed like a gunshot in the silence. The man on the left moved first. Not toward her, just a slight turn of his head tracking the noise with predator accuracy. His eyes caught what little light existed and threw it back wrong. Too bright, too focused. Her heart kicked against her ribs. The suppressant was supposed to keep this from happening. Supposed to keep her body from recognizing what stood in front of her. But her hindbrain was screaming, and no pill on earth could silence instinct this old. "Don't move." The center figure again. His voice was low, controlled. The kind of calm that came from never needing to raise volume to be obeyed. Rowan's legs locked. Not from obedience. From survival instinct recognizing a threat so far above her weight class that running was pointless. The third man circled right. Slow. Deliberate. Giving her space while simultaneously cutting off the only exit. Rain dripped from his jacket onto linoleum. Each drop landed with precision. Nothing about these men was accidental. "Lights," the center one said. The man on the left raised his hand. Didn't flip a switch. Didn't touch anything. The fluorescent bulbs stuttered back to life. Rowan's breath caught. She'd been safer in the dark. Because now she could see them clearly. Identical bone structure. Same height, easily 6'4". Same broad shoulders and long limbs built for speed and power. Triplets. But their presence was completely different. The one on the left looked like violence waiting for permission. Jaw tight. Hands flexed at his sides. His eyes were darkest brown, but something moved behind them. Something that wanted out. The center one was stillness personified. He watched Rowan the way scientists observed specimens. Curious but detached. His hands hung loose, relaxed, more dangerous because of it. The third was shaking, subtly, a tremor in his shoulders that spread down his arms. His veins showed dark beneath his skin like ink bleeding through paper. When he breathed, it sounded like restraint was costing him everything. They were dressed identically. Black thermal shirts, dark cargo pants, boots that had seen serious miles. No jewelry, no identification, nothing that made them individuals instead of a unit. You sent us a message. Center one spoke, each word measured, rationed. Rowan's voice came out hoarse. That wasn't for you, but we received it. He took one step forward. The wolves outside shifted in response. A ripple of movement through 50 bodies reacting to a leader they couldn't even see. Do you know what that means? She didn't answer. Couldn't. Her throat had closed around words that felt too dangerous to speak. The shaking one moved closer. His nostrils flared. That scent. His voice cracked. How is that possible? Rhyse, control it. Center one didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. Rhyse stopped walking, but his whole body vibrated with effort. You don't smell it? You don't feel it? The violent one, still by the door, finally spoke. His voice was gravel. We all feel it, brother. Difference is I'm not about to lose my mind over biology. Biology? Rhyse laughed. Sharp. Bitter. You're calling this biology, Cael? This hasn't happened in... Enough. The center one cut him off with surgical precision. His eyes never left Rowan. My name is Torin. These are my brothers. And you're going to tell us exactly what you are. Rowan's back pressed harder against the wall. I'm a veterinarian. Try again. I treat animals. That's all. Cael moved from the doorway. Fast. Inhumanly fast. He crossed 15 feet in a blink and stopped inches from her face. His hand slammed against the wall beside her head. The drywall cracked. Lying to us is a mistake. His breath was hot against her cheek. Tell us what you are or I'll find out myself. Torin's voice sliced through the tension. Stand down. Cael didn't move. She's scared. Good. Fear makes people honest. It also makes them stupid. Torin was suddenly there, between Cael and Rowan. He hadn't walked. Hadn't crossed the space. He'd just appeared. Back. Off. Cael held his ground for 3 seconds, then retreated. Slowly. His eyes locked on Rowan the entire time. She couldn't stop shaking. Her suppressant was gone. Completely metabolized. Everything she'd buried was surfacing, and these three could sense it. Could probably smell the chemical change in her sweat. The fear. The recognition. Rhyse was on his knees now, hands pressed flat against the floor. We need to leave. Right now. Before I. His sentence ended in a sound that wasn't human. Deeper. Coming from a chest that was restructuring itself. Torin turned. Rhyse, look at me. I can't. Rhyse's voice was barely words anymore. It's been too long. Too many years without. You can. You will. But Rhyse wasn't listening. His spine arched. Bones shifted under skin. His hands curled into claws that scraped linoleum. Cael swore. He's going feral. No. Torin crouched beside his brother. Grabbed his face. Forced eye contact. You're stronger than this. Not around her. Not when she smells like... Rhyse's eyes flooded with gold. Bright. Burning. We have to claim her before. The wolves outside erupted. 50 animals howling in unison. A sound that shook the building's foundation. That made Rowan's teeth ache. That bypassed thought and went straight to marrow. Cael's control snapped. His shift was partial. Wrong. Caught between forms that weren't meant to exist simultaneously. His face elongated. His shoulders broadened. When he roared, the windows rattled. Torin released Rhyse and spun toward Cael. "Don't you dare!" Too late. Cael's fist went through the front window. Safety glass exploded outward in a glittering cascade. The alarm system, still somehow functional, began screaming. The wolves answered with howls that turned the night into chaos. Rhyse surged to his feet. His shift was further along, more complete. His eyes were full wolf now, gold and wild, and fixed on Rowan with an intensity that stopped her heart. "Mine," he growled. The word wasn't a claim. It was a statement of fact, of destiny, of something inevitable. Torin moved between them again, but even he was struggling now. His hands trembled, his carefully maintained control fracturing under pressure. Rowan didn't understand. "Both of you stop." His voice carried command that should have worked. That probably always worked. It didn't work now. Cael was through the window, outside with the wolves. His partially shifted form moved through them like a general through ranks. The animals pressed close, whined, begged for direction from an alpha losing his grip on sanity. Rhyse took a step toward Rowan, then another. His movement was predatory, inevitable. Torin caught his arm. "She's terrified. You're scaring her." "I don't care." Rhyse's voice was barely human. "I've waited 70 years. I won't wait another second. 70 years. The words hit Rowan like a slap. These men, weren't human, were something so far removed from her understanding that her mind couldn't process it. The sedated wolf on her operating table woke up. Its eyes snapped open, gold, bright, aware. It leaped off the table with the 4 still attached. The line ripped free. Blood spattered the walls. The animal landed between Rowan and Rhyse with a growl that vibrated through the floor, protecting her. A wolf she'd never met was protecting her from whatever these 3 were. Rhyse stopped, stared at the animal. Impossible. The wolf's hackles raised. Its teeth were bared. Ready to die, defending someone it had no logical reason to defend. Outside, the wolves fell silent. All 50, waiting. When even monsters recognize something in you worth protecting, what does that make you? The wolf's blood dripped onto linoleum. Fresh sutures strained against muscle that shouldn't be moving. The animal swayed but held its ground between Rowan and Rhyse. Torin's hand shot out, gripped Rhyse's shoulder with enough force that bone creaked. "Stand down. Now." Rhyse's gold eyes never left the injured wolf. "It shouldn't be able to do that. The sedation alone." "I know." Torin's voice carried an edge Rowan hadn't heard before. Uncertainty. "Which means we're missing something." Cael appeared in the broken window. Glass crunched under his boots. His partial shift had receded, but his hands were still clawed. Still dangerous. Blood ran from his knuckles where glass had opened skin that was already healing. "The pack's losing it." He jerked his chin toward the parking lot. "They feel her and they don't know what to do with it." "Neither do we." Torin released Rhyse but kept himself positioned between everyone. A mediator in a situation spiraling beyond mediation. "We need information before this goes any further." "Information?" Cael's laugh was harsh. "Brother, we're past information. We're in the middle of something that hasn't happened since." "Don't say it." Torin's command cracked like a whip. Cael's jaw clenched. He said it anyway. "Since the severance." The words hung in the air like smoke. Heavy. Toxic. Rhyse flinched. The injured wolf whined. Even the chaos outside seemed to pause. 50 wolves gone silent again, as if the word itself demanded respect. Rowan's back was still against the wall. Her mind raced through possibilities and kept hitting dead ends. The severance. 70 years. Wolves that obeyed invisible commands. Men who moved faster than physics allowed. "I don't know what you want from me." Her voice came out smaller than intended. "I just treat animals. That's all I've ever done. Torin turned. His eyes were still brown, but something flickered behind them now. Gold trying to surface. You treat animals that don't exist in government records, in medical textbooks. Animals that only our kind knows about. I didn't ask questions. Rowan's hands fisted at her sides. Someone needed help. I helped. For how long? 3 years. And before that? She hesitated. That hesitation was answer enough. Cael moved closer, each step deliberate, calculated. You've been doing this longer than 3 years. I can smell the lie. I don't. Don't insult us. He stopped 3 feet away. Close enough that his presence pressed against her like heat from a furnace. You've been in this world since you were young. Since before you knew what it meant. Rowan's pulse hammered. I don't know what world you're talking about. Yes, you do. Rhyse's voice was steadier now, the gold in his eyes fading back to brown. You've always known. That's why you take the suppressants. Her blood turned to ice. How do you? We can smell them in your sweat, taste them in the air. Rhyse tilted his head. Medical grade. High dosage. The kind prescribed to people trying to hide what they are. I'm human. Part of you is. Torin stepped closer. Not threatening. Observing. The other part is what has 50 wolves surrounding this building. What made an injured animal leap to your defense. What's causing 3 alphas to lose control for the first time in decades. Rowan's knees weakened. She locked them. Refused to collapse. I don't know what you think I am, but... Omega-born. Torin said it quietly. Factually. Stabilizer class. The world tilted. Those words. She hadn't heard them since she was 13 years old. Since the night her mother had packed their bags and moved them 3 states away from everyone they knew. Since whispered conversations about councils and erasure and people who disappeared when they became inconvenient. That's not real. Her voice shook. That's a story. A myth. You're standing in a room with 3 shifters and 50 wolves who answer to our bloodline. Cael's expression was hard. Unforgiving. You don't get to claim myths aren't real. The injured wolf finally collapsed. Its legs gave out and it hit the floor hard. Unconscious again. The adrenaline that had powered its defense finally depleted. Rowan moved without thinking. Dropped to her knees beside the animal. Checked its pulse. Its breathing. Professional instinct overriding terror. It's dying. She looked up at Torin. The sutures tore. It's bleeding internally now. Can you save it? Maybe. If you stop destroying my clinic and let me work. Cael laughed. Sharp. Bitter. She's got fire. I'll give her that. She's got more than fire. Rhyse crouched on the other side of the wolf. His hand hovered over its flank. Not touching. Just close. She's got something we haven't seen in 70 years. Something they told us was extinct. Not extinct. Torin's voice was quiet. Eradicated. The word landed like a stone in still water. Ripples spreading outward. Rowan's hands stilled on the wolf's chest. What? After the severance. After the treaties collapsed, stabilizers became liabilities. Torin watched her carefully, gauging her reaction. They were the only thing that could prevent alpha descent into feral states. The only bridge between human law and pack law, which made them targets. Targets for who? Everyone. Cael's voice was cold. Humans who wanted leverage over packs. Rogue alphas who wanted power without accountability. Council elders who decided stability was less important than control. Rhyse's hand finally touched the wolf. Gentle. Reverent. They hunted stabilizers systematically. Called it protective custody. Called it voluntary relocation. But we all knew what it really was. Genocide. Torin said it without inflection. Slow, quiet, efficient. Rowan's stomach turned. That's not. That can't be. Why do you think you've been hiding? Torin's eyes held hers. Why do you think your mother moved you across state lines? Why suppressants? Why treating wolves in secret instead of going through proper channels? Because speaking up meant disappearing. Because asking questions meant becoming a problem. Because survival meant silence. She'd always known that, just never understood why. The last verified stabilizer died in 1954. Rhyse's voice was barely a whisper. We thought the bloodline was gone. Clearly not. Cael straightened, rolled his shoulders. The violence in him was leashed again, but barely. Which means we have a choice to make. Torin's jaw tightened. We're not making that choice tonight. Like hell we're not. Cael's voice rose. She's here. She's real. And every second we wait is another second someone else might find her. Find me for what? Rowan's voice cracked. What do you want from me? The three brothers looked at each other. A conversation happening in silence. In minute expressions and shared history she couldn't read. Finally Torin spoke. Alphas need stabilizers to maintain control. Without them we descend into feral states. Become unstable. Dangerous. Everything you just watched happen. But that hasn't happened in 70 years, Rowan said slowly. So why now? Because we're the Triplet Alphas of Blackpine. Rhyse's voice carried weight. Legacy. We hold territory that spans 3 states and commands 12 packs. We've maintained control through discipline and distance and extremely careful management of our own biology. Until tonight. Cael's smile was sharp. Until you sent a message that shouldn't have reached us. Until your scent hit the air and 70 years of control went up in flames. The alarm was still screaming. Rowan had stopped hearing it. Stopped hearing anything except her own heartbeat and the terrible truth assembling itself in her mind. You're saying I did this? Her voice was flat. I made you lose control. No. Torin shook his head. We lost control because we've been operating on borrowed time. Because stabilizers exist for a reason and we've been pretending we could function without one. But we can't. Rhyse looked at her with something that might have been hope or might have been hunger. Not anymore. Outside a siren wailed. Distant but getting closer. Cael's head snapped toward the sound. Police. Or wildlife enforcement. Torin moved to the broken window. Scanned the tree line. Either way we're out of time. Then we take her. Cael said it like it was obvious. Now. Before they get here. No. Rowan stood. Her legs shook but held. You're not taking me anywhere. You don't understand what they'll do if they find you. Rhyse's voice was urgent. Desperate. If enforcement realizes what you are, they'll disappear you. Torin finished. Just like all the others. The sirens were getting louder. Multiple vehicles. Coming fast. Rowan looked at the broken window. At the 50 wolves still surrounding her clinic. At 3 men who could kill her without trying but hadn't. Who looked at her like she was a miracle and a curse. She thought about Dr. Ansel Crow. About how he'd vanished after pushing too hard. About the warnings. The threats. The systematic erasure of anyone who asked too many questions. I'm not going with you. Her voice was steady now. Certain. And I'm not running. Torin's expression shifted. Then you're choosing death. Maybe. Rowan met his eyes. But it'll be my choice. Sometimes the only power you have left is deciding how you lose. But what if that choice changes everything? The sirens were close enough now that red and blue light bled through the broken window. Rowan could see the strobes painting the wolves in alternating colors. Could see Cael's jaw working as he calculated angles and exits. Could see Rhyse's hands trembling again as control slipped further away. Torin hadn't moved. He stood perfectly still watching her with an intensity that felt like being dissected. You don't know what you're doing. His voice was quiet, dangerous in its calm. You think you're making a choice, but you're just delaying the inevitable. Then let me delay it. Rowan crossed her arms. Physical barrier between herself and the truth trying to drown her. This is my clinic. My mess. Not yours. It became ours the second you sent that message. Cael was at the window now, watching the approaching vehicles. 3 units. Enforcement, not police. They came prepared. For what? For us. Rhyse's laugh was hollow. They've been waiting for an excuse to move on Blackpine territory. You just gave them one. The lead vehicle skidded into the parking lot. Doors opened. Men emerged with rifles and tranquilizer equipment. Professional. Organized. They'd done this before. One of them raised a megaphone. This is wildlife enforcement. The building is surrounded. Exit with your hands visible. The wolves didn't move. 50 animals locked in formation waiting for orders from alphas who were barely holding human shape. Cael's breathing changed. Faster. Shallow. His shoulders broadened. His spine curved. I can't. We need to move. No. Torin grabbed his brother's arm. The same grip he'd used on Rhyse. You shift now and they have legal justification to put you down. They'll do it anyway. Not if we're smart. Smart. Cael wrenched free. His voice was rising, deepening. There's nothing smart about this. We're trapped in a building with a stabilizer we can't claim and humans we can't kill without starting a war. Rhyse was pacing. For steps one direction. For steps back. His eyes kept flickering gold. We have to claim her. It's the only way to stabilize before. He didn't finish the sentence. Didn't need to. His shift started in his chest. Ribs expanding. Sternum cracking. The sound was wet and wrong and Rowan's stomach lurched. Rhyse? Torin moved toward him, but it was already too late. Rhyse's shift was faster than Cael's had been. More complete. His clothes tore. His face elongated into something between human and wolf. When he screamed, it came out as a howl that made the wolves outside erupt. 50 animals howling in response. Moving. Breaking formation. Advancing on the enforcement officers who were shouting into radios calling for backup. Cael lost it completely. His shift was violent. Explosive. He didn't gradually change. He detonated into wolf form in seconds. Massive. Black. Eyes burning gold. He hit the wall with enough force to crack drywall and spun toward Rowan with hunger that transcended reason. Torin was the only one still holding human form. Barely. His hands had clawed. His eyes were full gold now. His voice, when he spoke, was layered. Human words wrapped around animal growl. Rowan. Run. She couldn't move. Couldn't process what was happening fast enough to translate it into action. Cael stalked toward her. Each step deliberate. His wolf form was enormous. Built for killing. For dominating. His lips pulled back from teeth that could crush bone. The injured wolf on the floor woke again. Tried to stand. Collapsed. Too weak to defend anyone now. Rhyse was fully shifted. Circling. His gold eyes locked on Rowan with the same intensity as Cael's. Two predators. One prey. Torin put himself between them and Rowan. His shift was starting now too. Fighting, it was costing him everything. Blood ran from his nose. His ears. The pressure of holding back was destroying him from the inside. I won't let you touch her like this. His voice was barely words. Not feral. Not without consent. Cael snarled. Rhyse answered. Two alphas challenging a third. Outside, the enforcement officers were setting up perimeter barriers. Someone was assembling what looked like industrial netting. Another had a rifle loaded with darts the size of Rowan's thumb. They were preparing for a takedown. Multiple targets. Lethal force authorized. Rowan's suppressant was completely gone now. Her body was doing things she'd spent her entire adult life preventing. Her senses sharpened. Her hearing expanded. She could smell the wolves outside. Could smell the fear sweat on the enforcement officers. Could smell the blood and adrenaline pouring off the three brothers tearing themselves apart in her clinic. And underneath it all, something else. A pull. A recognition. Her body responding to their presence in ways that made no biological sense. The bond. The thing stabilizers were supposed to create with alphas. The chemical, spiritual, physical connection that prevented descent into feral states. It was trying to form, right now. Without permission. Without any of them choosing it. Cael lunged. Torin caught him mid-air. Two massive forms colliding. They hit the operating table and it collapsed under their combined weight. Instruments scattered. The heart monitor shattered. Rhyse used the distraction to close distance. Got within 3 feet of Rowan before Torin kicked him back. Wolf claws raked Torin's ribs. Blood sprayed. The fight was vicious, primal. Three brothers who'd spent 70 years maintaining perfect control now ripping each other apart. Because of her, Rowan watched Torin take a bite meant for her. Watched him pin Cael long enough to throw Rhyse into the wall. Watched him fight his own brothers to protect someone he'd met 15 minutes ago. Stop! Her voice was too quiet, lost in the chaos. Cael broke free, launched at Torin's throat. Teeth found flesh. Tore. Stop! Louder this time. Rhyse recovered. Joined Cael. 2-on-1. Torin was strong but not strong enough. He was being overwhelmed. Killed by his own family. Something in Rowan's chest cracked. Not bone. Something deeper. The wall she'd built between herself and the truth. The barrier she'd maintained since childhood. It shattered completely. She didn't think. Didn't plan. Just stepped forward into the middle of three warring alphas and screamed. Stop! The word carried weight it shouldn't have. Carried command. Carried something that bypassed thought and went straight to the core of what they were. Cael froze, jaws still locked on Torin's shoulder. Rhyse stumbled back, his eyes wide. Torin's head snapped toward her. Blood ran from a dozen wounds. The wolves outside went silent. All 50. Instantly. Even the enforcement officers seemed to pause, uncertain what they'd just heard. Rowan's hands were shaking. Her entire body was shaking. But her voice when she spoke again was steady. I said stop. Cael released Torin, backed away, his massive wolf form lowering. Submitting. Rhyse dropped to all fours, head down, throat exposed. Torin shifted back to human. Slow. Painful. His wounds were already closing, but his eyes never left Rowan's face. How did you? His voice was raw. You're not claimed. You shouldn't be able to. I don't know. Rowan looked at her hands. At skin that felt different. Wrong, right? I don't know what I just did. You commanded us. Torin stood slowly. Every movement careful. Stabilizers can guide, can influence, but only after bonding. What you just did shouldn't be possible. Rhyse had shifted back too, naked and bleeding and staring at Rowan like she'd rewritten reality. No one can command alphas without a claim. She just did. Cael's shift back was faster than the others. His voice was quiet. She gave an alpha command and we obeyed. Outside someone shouted orders. The enforcement team was moving. Running toward the clinic with nets and rifles and enough sedative to drop an elephant. They had maybe 30 seconds. Torin looked at Rowan, then at his brothers, then back at Rowan. Come with us. No threat this time, just a question. Please. Rowan looked at the three men covered in blood, at the wolves outside waiting for direction, at the enforcement officers closing in with weapons designed to end threats permanently. She thought about Dr. Ansel Crow, about how silence had kept her alive but never safe, about the fact that safety had always been an illusion anyway. No, she met Torin's eyes. Get your wolves out of here. Leave, before they kill you all. They'll take you. Rhyse's voice broke. They'll disappear you and we'll never find you again. Maybe. Rowan stepped toward the door. But it'll buy you time to figure out what happens next. What happens next is we come back for you. Cael's voice was hard, certain. We will come back. Then I guess I'll see you when you do. She looked at each of them. But right now, get out of my clinic. Torin held her gaze for 3 seconds, then nodded once. Fall back. He didn't raise his voice, but every wolf heard it. Full retreat. Now. The wolves outside melted into the tree line. 50 animals vanishing in seconds. Cael and Rhyse shifted again. Faster this time. More controlled. They leaped through the broken window and disappeared after the pack. Torin was the last to move. He paused at the window, looked back. This isn't over. I know. Rowan's voice was quiet. I know. Then he was gone. The enforcement officers burst through the door 7 seconds later. Rifles raised. Tranquilizer guns ready. They found Rowan standing alone in a destroyed clinic with an injured wolf unconscious at her feet and broken glass everywhere. No sign of what had just happened. No evidence of the 3 men or 50 wolves. Just a veterinarian covered in blood that wasn't hers and a silence that felt like the calm before detonation. When you save the monsters and sacrifice yourself, who's really the predator? The interrogation room smelled like industrial cleaner and fear. Rowan sat in a metal chair bolted to the floor. Her hands were cuffed in front of her. Not standard procedure for witnesses, but the enforcement officers had stopped pretending this was routine questioning. The clock on the wall read 4:47 a.m. She'd been here for 3 hours. 3 hours of the same questions asked 17 different ways by 4 different agents. What were you doing with an unregistered animal? How did 50 wolves surround your clinic? Where did the men go? What aren't you telling us? Rowan had answered the first few rounds. Given them the story she'd rehearsed in her head during the silent drive from her clinic to this facility that didn't have a name on any building. She was treating an injured animal. She didn't know about any wolves. She didn't see any men. The window must have broken during the chaos. They didn't believe her. She didn't expect them to, but they also didn't have proof. The security footage from her clinic had been corrupted, every camera simultaneously failing at 11:34 p.m. The injured wolf had vanished from the transport vehicle before they reached the facility. Even the blood samples they'd taken from the scene were coming back with impossible results. Contaminated. All of them. Useless. The door opened. A woman entered. Tall. Late 50s. Gray hair pulled back tight enough to make Rowan's scalp ache in sympathy. She carried a file folder and an expression that said she'd stopped caring about protocol years ago. Dr. Hale. She sat down across from Rowan. Didn't introduce herself. You've been very patient with my colleagues. I appreciate that. Rowan said nothing. My name is Director Kessler. I oversee special operations for wildlife enforcement in the Pacific Northwest. She opened the folder, slid a photograph across the table. Do you recognize this man? Dr. Ansel Crow, younger than Rowan remembered, standing outside a clinic that looked like hers but wasn't. No, the lie came easily now. He was a veterinarian like yourself, treated unusual cases, animals that didn't quite fit standard classifications. Kessler pulled out another photo. He went missing 4 years ago. No body, no evidence, just gone. Rowan kept her expression neutral. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you? Kessler's smile was cold, because his last known communication was with a graduate student named Rowan Hale, advising her on a case involving what he described as a non-standard canine specimen. The room tilted slightly. Rowan locked her knees under the table. I don't remember. You were 19, doing an internship at Cascade Animal Hospital in Portland. Kessler pulled out more photos, emails, phone records. You and Dr. Crow exchanged 43 communications over 6 months. Then he disappeared and you transferred to a clinic in Eugene, far from anyone who might ask questions. I wanted a change of pace. You wanted to disappear. Kessler leaned forward. Just like the 7 other veterinarians we've tracked who worked with non-standard cases. All of them gone. All of them leaving behind clinics that mysteriously burned down or flooded or suffered catastrophic equipment failures that destroyed all records. Rowan's heart hammered. She hadn't known there were others. Hadn't known the pattern was that extensive. I don't know what you want me to say. I want you to tell me the truth. Kessler's voice softened, dangerous in its gentleness. I want you to tell me what those animals really are, where they come from, why people like Dr. Crow risk everything to protect them. I treat injured animals. That's all. Bullshit. Kessler slammed her palm on the table. The folder jumped. I've been doing this for 26 years. I've seen things that aren't in any textbook. Animals that shouldn't exist. People who can do things that violate basic biology. And I've watched my superiors cover it up. Bury it. Pretend it's not happening. She pulled out one final photograph. Recent. Grainy. Shot from distance with a telephoto lens. 3 men standing at the edge of a forest. Identical features, flanked by wolves that looked far too intelligent. The Triplet Alphas, Torin, Cael, Rhyse. These men appeared on our surveillance cameras 6 months ago. Kessler tapped the photo. We've tracked them across 3 states. They don't have social security numbers. No birth certificates. No digital footprint. It's like they materialized from nothing. Rowan forced herself to look at the photo without reacting. I've never seen them before. They were at your clinic tonight. My team saw them. Your team saw wolves, probably rabid. The stress made them see things that weren't there. Kessler studied her for a long moment. Then she gathered the photos, slid them back into the folder. Stood. You're being released. Rowan blinked. What? We don't have enough evidence to hold you. Your clinic is being shut down pending investigation, but you're free to go. Kessler walked to the door, paused with her hand on the handle. But Dr. Hale, this isn't over. Whatever you're protecting, it's gonna get you killed. Just like it killed Dr. Crow. He's dead. Officially, missing. Unofficially, Kessler's expression was grim. We found pieces of his clinic in a burn pile 3 years ago, along with medical equipment that had been used for procedures no legitimate veterinarian would perform. The door opened. A guard gestured for Rowan to follow. She stood on shaking legs. The cuffs came off. She was given her phone and keys and escorted to a parking lot where her truck sat under fluorescent lights that made everything look diseased. It was 6:15 a.m. The sun was rising, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold that felt obscene given what had just happened. Rowan sat in her truck for 20 minutes before she could make her hands stop shaking enough to drive. Her clinic was gone. Her livelihood was gone. Everything she'd built to survive in a world that wanted her erased was gone. But she was alive. For now. She drove to a motel on the outskirts of town, paid cash for a week, collapsed on a bed that smelled like cigarettes and gave up pretending she was okay. The bond was still there, humming under her skin, connecting her to 3 men she'd known for less than an hour. 3 alphas whose control she'd shattered just by existing. Stabilizers create bonds. That's what Torin had said. But bonds went both ways. If she could feel them, could they feel her? Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Almost threw the phone across the room and pretended none of this was real. Instead, she swiped to answer, held it to her ear. Silence. Then breathing. Then a voice she recognized. Torin. Are you safe? Rowan laughed. Sharp. Bitter. That's a relative question. Are you alone? Yes. Good. Pause. We need to meet. No. Rowan. I said no. She sat up. I did what you asked. I got you and your wolves out. I took the interrogation. I lost everything so you could escape. We're done. You think losing your clinic makes us even? Torin's voice was quiet. Dangerous. You commanded alphas tonight. Do you understand what that means? It means I made a mistake. It means you're in more danger than you realize. Every pack in 3 states felt what happened. Felt an unbonded stabilizer given alpha command. They're coming for you. Rowan's blood turned cold. Coming for me, why? Because stabilizers are supposed to be extinct. Because you're proof the bloodline survived. Because claiming you means power that hasn't existed since the severance. He paused. And because we're not the only ones who want that power. Then I'll run. They'll find you. I've been hiding my whole life. I'm good at it. You were good at it when you were suppressed and silent. Torin's voice dropped. But you're not suppressed anymore. You're fully emerged. Every shifter within 500 miles can sense you now. Rowan stood, walked to the window. The parking lot was empty. Normal. Mundane. What do you want from me? Her voice broke. What am I supposed to do? Let us protect you. By claiming me? By making me property? By making you pack? Torin's voice was careful. It's different. Choice instead of ownership. Partnership instead of servitude. And if I don't want to be part of a pack? Silence. Long enough that Rowan thought he'd hung up. Then you'll die alone while we descend into feral states and destroy everything we've built." The line went dead. Rowan stood at the window watching the sunrise paint everything gold, thinking about Dr. Ansel Crow, about 7 other veterinarians who'd tried to help and vanished, about a system designed to erase people like her. Her phone buzzed again. Text this time. Unknown number, but she knew who it was. "When you're ready to stop running, we'll be waiting." She deleted it, then threw the phone on the bed. Outside her window, 3 crows landed on the motel sign, black against the golden sky, watching. What happens when survival means choosing between monsters who want to own you and monsters who want to kill you? And there's no third option. The motel room door splintered inward at 2:34 a.m. Rowan was already awake, had been for hours, lying in the dark listening to footsteps that didn't belong to guests, to breathing that was too controlled, too patient. She rolled off the bed as the first figure came through, hit the floor, scrambled toward the bathroom. A hand caught her ankle, yanked her backward across carpet that burned her palms. "Got her." The voice was male, unfamiliar, carried an accent she couldn't place. Rowan twisted, kicked. Her heel connected with something soft. The grip released with a grunt. She made it 3 feet before another set of hands grabbed her shoulders, slammed her against the wall hard enough that her vision whited out. When it cleared, there were 4 of them, all male, all wearing tactical gear without insignia. Their eyes reflected light wrong in the darkness. "Shifters, you're coming with us." The one holding her had scars across his throat. Old, deep. "Don't make this difficult." Rowan's heart hammered. "Who sent you? Does it matter?" Scarred throat tilted his head. "You're unbonded, unclaimed. That makes you fair game." "I'm human." He laughed. "You stopped being human the second you commanded the Blackpine Alphas. Everyone knows what you are now. Everyone wants you." The window exploded inward. Glass and wood frame and pieces of the wall came with it. A massive black form landed in the center of the room. Wolf. Enormous. Eyes burning gold. Cael. He didn't hesitate, didn't give warning, just attacked. The shifter holding Rowan released her to defend himself. Too slow. Cael's jaws found his throat, tore. Blood sprayed the ceiling. The other 3 shifted. Partial transformations. Claws and teeth and strength that cracked furniture. The fight was vicious, chaotic. Bodies slammed into walls. Claws raked flesh. The motel room became a slaughterhouse in seconds. Rowan pressed herself into the corner, watching Cael take on 4 shifters alone. He was faster, stronger, but they had numbers. One of them broke away, lunged for Rowan. She didn't think, just grabbed the lamp off the nightstand and swung. The base connected with his skull. He dropped. Cael used the distraction, killed another, then another. The last one ran, shifted fully and crashed through what remained of the door. Cael started to follow, then stopped, turned back to Rowan. His shift back to human was slower than before, more controlled. When he finally stood on 2 legs, he was covered in blood that wasn't his and breathing hard. "You hurt." His voice was rough. "No." Rowan's hands shook. "How did you find me?" "We've been watching since you left the facility." He grabbed a sheet off the bed, wrapped it around his waist. "Good thing too. These weren't the only ones coming for you tonight." "What?" "There are 3 other packs moving on this location. We intercepted 2. The 3rd. He looked toward the window. "Torin and Rhyse are handling them." Rowan's legs gave out. She slid down the wall until she hit the floor. "This is because of what I did. Because I commanded you. This is because you exist." Cael crouched in front of her. "And because every alpha with ambition sees you as a prize to be claimed." "I won't be claimed." "Then you'll be dead by morning." He stood, extended his hand. "Come with me, now, before the next wave arrives." Rowan looked at his hand, at the blood coating his skin, at eyes that had killed for people without hesitation to protect someone he barely knew. Outside, sirens wailed. Human police responding to reports of screaming and destruction. If I go with you, what happens? Her voice was small. What do you want from me? Cael's expression softened. Just slightly. We want you alive. Everything else is negotiable. Everything. Everything. He kept his hand extended. But we have to move. Right now. Rowan took his hand. He pulled her up. Grabbed her bag. Led her to the destroyed window. Can you run? She nodded. Then run. They jumped through the opening together. Hit the parking lot running. Behind them the motel room burned. Someone had set fire to the bodies. To the evidence. Covering tracks. Rowan ran beside a man who'd just killed to protect her. Ran toward brothers who'd promised to come back. Ran away from a life that was already gone. The forest swallowed them whole. Dark trees and darker shadows, and somewhere ahead, wolves waiting. When the only safety left is with the monsters everyone warned you about, are you being rescued or claimed? The safe house was a cabin 40 miles from anywhere that mattered. Rowan sat on a worn couch while Torin bandaged Cael's ribs. The wounds were already closing, but procedure mattered. Routine kept them human. Rhyse stood at the window, watching, always watching. We can't stay here long. His voice was tight. They'll find this place eventually. Let them. Cael didn't flinch when Torin pulled the bandage tight. We'll be ready. Will we? Torin's hands stilled. We barely held control tonight. If Rowan hadn't been there to stabilize us after. She was there. Cael's eyes found Rowan. And she'll keep being there. Because she's smart enough to know we're her best option. I didn't say that. Rowan's voice came out harder than intended. I agreed to come with you, not to stay. The three brothers looked at each other. That silent conversation again. Years of shared history compressed into glances. Finally Torin spoke. You can't run from this. Every pack within 500 miles knows what you are. They'll hunt you until one of them succeeds. Or until you claim me. Rowan stood. That's what this is really about. You want me bonded so you can maintain control of your territory. We want you alive. Rhyse turned from the window. The bonding is secondary. Is it? She looked at each of them. Because it sounds like I'm a tool. Something to keep you stable while you play politics with other packs. You're not a tool. Torin's voice was quiet. Careful. You're a person. With choices. But those choices have consequences that affect more than just you. Like what? Like Blackpine. Cael stood, crossed to a map tacked on the wall. We hold territory that spans 3 states. 12 packs answer to us. Thousands of shifters rely on our leadership to keep them safe from human authorities and rogue alphas. He traced boundaries on the map. Without a stabilizer, we're descending, losing control. It's already started. 2 packs have challenged our authority in the last week. Violence is rising. Humans are noticing. That's not my fault. No. Torin joined his brother at the map. But you're the only solution, the only stabilizer alive. If you refuse to bond, if you walk away, Blackpine falls. And when it falls, thousands of shifters lose protection, become targets for enforcement and worse. Rowan's chest tightened. You're saying if I don't help you, people die? Yes. Rhyse's voice was blunt. Honest. That's exactly what we're saying. The cabin fell silent. Outside wolves moved through the trees, patrolling, protecting, waiting for direction from alphas who were barely holding together. What does bonding actually mean? Rowan asked finally. What would I be agreeing to? Torin pulled out a chair. Saturday. It's a choice, not ownership. You'd be pack but autonomous. Protected but free to leave if you wanted. That's a lie. She met his eyes. If I bond with you, I become essential infrastructure. You'd never let me leave. We wouldn't force you to stay. But you wouldn't let me go either. Cael laughed. Sharp. She's smart. I told you she was smart. This isn't funny. Torin shot his brother a look. It's hilarious. Cael turned to Rowan. You're right. If you bond with us, you become the most valuable thing in our territory. We'd protect you with everything we have. Which means your freedom becomes relative. Cael, Rhyse started. No, Cael cut him off. She deserves honesty. We're asking her to save thousands of lives by giving up her own autonomy. Least we can do is admit it. Rowan's hands fisted. And if I refuse? Then we keep you safe until another option presents itself. Torin's voice was steady. We won't force a bond. But we also won't let you walk into a death trap. So I'm a prisoner either way. You're protected. Rhyse moved closer. There's a difference. Is there? The question hung in the air. No one answered. Rowan looked at the map. At territory spanning 3 states. At boundaries that represented thousands of lives that weren't hers to save. She thought about Dr. Ansel Crow. About choosing to help and disappearing. About the cost of mercy in a world built on violence. If I do this... Her voice was quiet. If I bond, it's on my terms. Torin's eyes sharpened. What terms? No claiming. No ownership. I'm Pack, but I make my own choices. Agreed. And if your control stabilizes, if Blackpine stops descending, I'm free to leave. Silence. Long, heavy. That's not... Rhyse started. Agreed. Torin spoke over his brother. If we stabilize and you want to leave, we won't stop you. Cael stared at Torin. You can't promise that. I just did. Rowan looked at the 3 of them. At men willing to kill for her. To lie for her. To promise things they probably couldn't deliver. She thought about running. About refusing. About letting Blackpine fall and thousands of shifters scatter. Then she thought about the wolves surrounding her clinic. About creatures that had protected her when they had no reason to. I'll do it. The words came out steady. Final. I'll bond with you. The relief on their faces was immediate. Overwhelming. But not tonight. Rowan held up her hand. I need time to understand what I'm agreeing to. Torin nodded. How much time? A week. You have 3 days. His voice was firm. After that, the challenges will escalate and we won't be able to hold them back. 3 days. 72 hours to decide if she was going to save thousands of lives by sacrificing her own freedom. Outside, the wolves howled. A sound that carried weight and expectation. When saving others means losing yourself. Is it sacrifice or surrender? The bonding ceremony never happened. 2 days after Rowan agreed, enforcement raided the cabin at dawn. 40 officers. Military-grade equipment. Someone had leaked the location. The fight was brief. Brutal. The Alphas got Rowan out through a tunnel system that predated the cabin by decades. Got her to a vehicle. Got her moving. But they couldn't stay together. Too visible. Too easy to track. Torin sent her north with Rhyse while he and Cael drew enforcement south. A sacrifice play. By time with their own capture. It worked. Rowan and Rhyse made it to the Canadian border before enforcement called off the pursuit. Before news broke that 2 of the Triplet Alphas had been detained for questioning regarding illegal wildlife operations. No charges filed. No official arrest. Just detention that could last indefinitely. Rhyse got Rowan to a safe house in Vancouver. Stayed for 6 hours. Then left to coordinate rescue operations. She was alone again. The news coverage was careful. Sanitized. Reports of a wildlife enforcement operation targeting illegal animal trafficking. Mentions of suspects in custody. Nothing about shifters or stabilizers or the war happening in shadows. Rowan watched it from an apartment that wasn't hers. Wearing clothes someone else had bought. Eating food she hadn't chosen. Free. Protected. Completely powerless. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Always unknown numbers now. She answered. They're releasing them. Rhyse's voice was tight. Torin and Cael. No charges. They'll be out by tonight. That's good. Is it? Pause. They're only releasing them because Blackpine is fracturing. Because without stabilization the territory is collapsing and enforcement would rather have controlled Alphas than chaos. Rowan's stomach dropped. How bad is it? 3 packs have broken away. 2 more are considering it. Violence is up 40%. Humans are starting to ask questions we can't answer. He exhaled slowly. We're losing control. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Come back. Bond with us. Fix this. I can't. Rowan's voice broke. If I come back, enforcement will find me. Will use me against you. So we hide you better. There is no better. They know what I am now. They'll keep looking until they find me. Silence. Long enough that Rowan thought he'd hung up. Then, you're choosing to let us fall. I'm choosing to survive. Those aren't different things anymore. The line went dead. Rowan sat in the dark apartment watching Vancouver's lights blur through tears. She hadn't given herself permission to cry. She'd made a choice. Walked away. Refused to sacrifice herself for people she barely knew. It was the right choice. The smart choice. Felt like cowardice. 3 weeks passed. News from Blackpine got worse. Pack challenges turned violent. Human casualties. Enforcement mobilizing for a systematic takedown of the entire territory. Rowan opened a small clinic under a false name. Treated house pets. Lived quietly. Pretended she wasn't checking news obsessively for updates. Pretended she couldn't feel the bond trying to form across distance. 1 month. Blackpine was headline news now. Authorities investigating organized crime with possible cult elements. Arrests being made. Territory being seized. The Triplet Alphas were named as persons of interest. Warrants issued. They'd gone underground. Rowan told herself it wasn't her fault. Told herself she'd made the only choice available. Told herself survival was victory enough. She believed none of it. Is mercy still mercy when it destroys everything you tried to save? The small clinic Rowan opened in Seattle lasted 4 months before she had to close it. Not because of enforcement. Not because someone found her. Because she couldn't stop thinking about Blackpine. About wolves she'd never met paying for her choice with their lives. The news had moved on. Human attention was brief. Fickle. The story about organized crime in the Pacific Northwest faded into background noise. But Rowan knew what silence meant. Knew that quiet didn't equal peace. She started calling the numbers Torin had given her. All disconnected. Started searching online for any mention of the Triplet Alphas. Found nothing. They'd vanished. Or been erased. Same result. Rowan lived in a studio apartment with locks on every door and windows that didn't open. She worked at a corporate veterinary clinic treating animals that had owners and insurance and names. Normal. Safe. Hollow. The bond hummed under her skin. Weaker now. Distance and time degrading what had almost formed. But still there. Still pulling. She ignored it. Had to. Because acknowledging the bond meant acknowledging she'd abandoned people who'd risked everything for her. 6 months after leaving, Rowan was closing the clinic when she smelled it. Rain and cedar and something wild that made her hindbrain scream recognition. She turned slowly. 3 figures stood at the edge of the parking lot, backlit by streetlights. Too far to see clearly, but she knew. Torin, Cael, Rhyse. They'd found her. Rowan's hands shook. She didn't run, didn't call for help. Just stood there while they crossed the distance between them. They looked different. Thinner, harder. Eyes that had seen things they couldn't unsee. You're alive. Torin's voice was quiet, careful, like speaking too loud might shatter something fragile. So are you. Rowan forced herself to meet his eyes. I thought the news said, we survived. Cael's voice was flat, empty. Not everyone did. The words hit like a physical blow. How many? Rowan whispered. 43 confirmed dead. Hundreds displaced. Blackpine doesn't exist anymore. The territory was absorbed by neighboring packs and enforcement. Rhyse's voice carried no emotion, just facts. We couldn't hold it without you. Rowan's knees weakened. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Are you? Cael stepped closer. Because you're alive. Safe. You made the choice that kept you breathing. That's what matters, right? I didn't want anyone to die. But they did. His voice was quiet, devastating. They died because we couldn't stabilize. Because without you we descended exactly like we said we would. Torin put a hand on Cael's shoulder. That's enough. Is it? Cael shook him off. She needs to know what her freedom cost. Rowan's chest felt crushed. Why are you here? To punish me? No. Torin's voice was tired. To tell you we're leaving. Going north. Trying to rebuild somewhere enforcement isn't actively hunting us. And to ask if you're happy. Rhyse looked at her. Really looked. If the choice you made was worth it. Was it? Rowan lived. Had a job. Had safety. Had everything she'd wanted when she ran. She also had guilt that ate her alive. Had dreams of wolves dying because she wasn't there. Had a bond slowly withering from neglect. I don't know. Her voice broke. I thought survival was enough, but it's not. Torin finished. It never is. They turned to leave. Rowan watched them walk away. Watched 3 men who'd protected her disappear into darkness. The bond pulled. Screamed. Demanded she follow. She didn't. What do you call it when you get everything you wanted and lose everything that mattered? 9 months after Blackpine fell, Rowan had perfected the art of pretending. She smiled at clients, discussed treatment plans, went home to her locked apartment, repeated the cycle, normal, functional, dying slowly from the inside out. The bond was almost gone now, just a whisper, an echo of what could have been. She told herself that was good, meant she was healing, moving on. She knew it was a lie. Spring came to Seattle with rain that never stopped. Rowan worked late most nights, avoided going home to silence that felt like accusation. Tonight she closed the clinic at 9, locked the doors, walked to her car through a parking lot that should have been empty. It wasn't. A figure leaned against her driver's side door. Tall, familiar silhouette. Rowan's heart stopped. Torin. He looked worse than the last time. Thinner, older, like the months had cost him years. You shouldn't be here. Her voice was quiet. If enforcement finds you, let them. He pushed off the car. I'm tired of running. Where are your brothers? North, building something new, smaller, safer. He took a step closer. They sent me to ask you one more time. Ask me what? If you're done punishing yourself. His eyes held hers. If you're ready to stop surviving and start living. Rowan's throat closed. I can't go back. Blackpine is gone. I'm not asking you to go back. I'm asking you to move forward. He pulled something from his pocket. A photograph. We found 12 stabilizer descendants. Hidden, suppressed, scared. We're building a sanctuary for them. A place where they don't have to choose between safety and freedom. He handed her the photo. Young faces, different ages, all carrying the same haunted look she saw in her mirror. We need someone to lead them, someone who understands what it costs to survive alone. Torin's voice was careful. Someone who knows that mercy without action is just regret with better marketing. Rowan stared at the photograph, at faces that looked like hers, people who'd been hiding just like she had. Why me? Because you walked away and lived with the consequences. Because you know what it means to choose wrong and keep breathing anyway. He took the photo back. Because you're the only one strong enough to make sure they don't have to make the same choice. The rain fell harder, soaked through Rowan's jacket. She didn't move. If I do this, if I come with you, what happens to us? To the bond. That's your choice. Torin's voice was steady. We're not asking you to bond. We're asking you to help people who need what you needed 9 months ago. Someone willing to fight for them. Rowan looked at him, at a man who'd lost everything protecting people like her, who'd come back anyway, who stood in the rain offering her a chance at redemption she hadn't earned. I failed Blackpine. You survived Blackpine. He corrected. Now you get to decide what survival means. The bond whispered, weak but there, waiting. Rowan thought about 43 deaths. About wolves scattered. About a territory that fell because she chose herself. Then she thought about 12 faces in a photograph. About people who deserved better than she'd given Blackpine. When do we leave? The words came out steady. Final. Torin's expression shifted. Relief. Hope. Something like forgiveness. Now. Tonight. Before you change your mind. Rowan looked at her car, at the clinic behind her, at the life she'd built from cowardice and regret. Then she looked at Torin, at shadows moving beyond the parking lot, Cael and Rhyse waiting in the trees. "I'm not bonding with you." Her voice was firm. "This is about them, about giving them choices I didn't have." "Understood. And if this goes wrong, if enforcement finds us, I'm not sacrificing myself again. Wouldn't ask you to." Rowan took a breath, let it out slowly. "Then let's go." They walked away from the clinic together, toward wolves waiting in darkness, toward 12 people who needed what she'd finally learned to give. Not sacrifice, not surrender, choice, on her terms, for reasons that mattered. The bond hummed stronger, not claiming, just recognition, just possibility. 3 shadows stood beyond the tree line, waiting. Rowan stopped walking, turned to face them. "This time," she said quietly, "I choose what happens next." Subscribe and turn on notifications to see what Rowan's choice becomes. Because the hardest battles aren't about winning or losing, but about finding the courage to fight for something bigger than survival. Drop a comment and share what choice you would have made. Your story might inspire someone facing their own impossible decision.